I am Vero, and you're watching Modern Immigrant. Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Modern Immigrant. As always, we're really excited to be here on another Monday bringing a new episode. And just a reminder, we have episodes in Spanish and in English. Every Monday, we're here bringing specialists and people that are sharing their journeys in order to inspire you in your own immigration journey. So I'm glad that you're here. And today we have a really special interview where we're going to be exploring an immigration journey and also financial wealth for all immigrants. Fijeh is here with us today. She's the founder of Immigrants Thrive and Thrive with Fijeh podcast, which I had the honor to be on her podcast sharing my story, and is a podcast that talks about finances, how to start your business, how to break those barriers of financial struggles, and how to build financial wealth. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode. Fijeh is going to be talking about her experience of moving from Nigeria to the USA 3 years ago and how it was for her the pandemic. For her, it was a really difficult time because she was a new immigrant, or as she calls herself, a baby immigrant, when the pandemic hit and when she had to stay home, raise her kids, feeling lonely. And I think it's going to be just wonderful to be able to listen to her experience and learn about the challenges that she faced and how she was able to overcome them. We also talk about finances. She gave us some amazing tips for immigrants. What is the most common mistake we make as immigrants in terms of finances and how we can overcome it? We also talk about the community building and the importance of having that community, even if they are back at our home, even if it's talking over the phone, doing phone calls and video calls, that still matters a lot. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please don't forget to subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're out there in all of the podcast platforms, and remember to share this episode if it was helpful for you, if you enjoyed it, to others, so others can start to join our community here in Modern Immigrant. We also have an Instagram account at Modern Immigrant, and over there you can learn a little more about what we're doing here in Modern Immigrant, about the guests and about the episodes. So thank you so much for being here. Enjoy. Bye. And today I'm so excited that I have Fijeh with us in Modern Immigrant. So welcome and happy Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here and to start talking about immigration. I was at Fijeh's podcast, Immigrants Thrive, about 3 weeks ago, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about her podcast, her project, and also her immigration story. So, why don't you start by telling us, when did your immigration journey start? How long ago and from where?
So I'm from Nigeria. I came here from Nigeria. I came to the US for immigration purposes 3 years ago. It will be 3 years in September, so 2 years plus, less than 2 years ago.
Yes.
So I'm literally a baby immigrant. We visited a lot. We did some business. I did some writing, publishing here, but it was vacationing. But for immigration, it was just 2 years ago. 3 years now, yeah.
Wow, what made you decide to move here? It sounds like you said that you came for other purposes before. So yeah, what made you kind of choose the place where you're at, and which part of the US?
So I'm in Chicago. I'm in Illinois. Our office is in Chicago, and I live in one of the suburbs around Illinois. So coming here we moved here because of security issues back home. I run a not-for-profit, and we operate a lot in the northern part of Nigeria. And there has been this religious issues or settlement issues just around there. And I used to work among displaced people. We call them in Nigeria internally displaced people, people whose lives have been displaced by acts of terrorists called Boko Haram and all that. So I've been doing that for a few years, and then in 2018, we were getting quite uncomfortable because we started getting some kind of confrontations.
Mm.
And then because my husband had a business here in Chicago, he said, okay, let's let things cool down. You and the children go over there and just help me set up formally. So we came and applied for an L1, L2 visa. L1 visa came with the children. That's a business visa.
Okay.
Yeah, just to get things settled down. But then when my husband was back home and we're here, the threat even escalated. So, the lawyer just advised us just this way because our intention was to go back and forth. Like
Mm.
for now, for security reasons, stay over. So we just got a more permanent status here. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was still a bit of insecurity in our country.
Right. Yeah. And that can be so hard. I can hear that desire to, go back and forth, right? Like I think a lot of immigrants, even when we're under that pressure, we still want to stay in our countries most of the times. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how it was for you arriving to the US? It sounds like it was first you and your kids. So how was that? I don't know if to call it a cultural shock or what were some of those things that you felt like were different when you arrive, and that way we get to understand also a little bit of from your culture too.
Yeah, so we were reluctant immigrants, let me put it that way, because apparently we'd spent so many years. We built our businesses, our career. And I was almost retired, running my not-for-profit full time. So I was happy, we were happy, but especially when you have little children, any threat to them is you don't want to.
Mm.
So when I came here with my children at first, it was hard because I have 3 children, and at the time the ages were how were they? So currently they are between the ages of 9 and 14.
Okay.
So at the time, 2 3 years ago, they were much younger.
Mm.
And my husband wasn't even willing to stay because it's like, no, I'm gonna see my business.
Exactly.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was hard. I think the greatest shock for me was the kind of raising children here.
Mm.
My son, especially, who was in sixth grade, was in sixth, fifth grade when I became. I mean, he met some kind of children that, things I never knew children would know. He was exposed to so much. It took me by surprise. It's a culture shock. That was the most shocking thing. You had, oh my God, little children, you know, whom parents would give access to iPhone, on of internet access, who just
Mm.
were doing so that even will be having a shock to an adult back home because Nigeria is a very conservative country.
Mm.
So I felt really bad because I wasn't ready for that. I didn't protect him from that because I never imagined that level, it would be an issue. So I had to quickly move like boom, educate them, start giving them, sex education, things I never imagined at that age should have been an issue because their friends were already introducing them to it. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
was the greatest shock I had. That was about the greatest shock. Because before then I'd lived around, I'd been in London, so but with child rearing here in America, I
Yeah.
was shocked at the kind of access people give their children, the things little children know. It's
Mm.
amazing.
Yeah, like the kind of it sounds like, yeah, you're when you're talking about this, I can definitely think about how in the US it kind of like children start talking about things and knowing things way earlier than other cultures, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because the parent is not actively involved, because they're learning these things off the internet from other friends,
Yeah.
it was a real shock to me.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're bringing this to the podcast because I feel like a lot of our listeners that are parents have maybe experienced something similar, right? Especially those ages that you're talking about, almost teenagers, right? Like it's so difficult. What is something that you felt like it kind of helped you to navigate okay, this is a new culture, I'm raising them here, but still wanting to keep your own values and your own culture? What's something that you can share that maybe helped you or that you're trying out? Because I know this is a constant learning process.
That's a great question because I had to learn on the go, on the job, from my
Yeah.
mistakes. what I did was one, my first my faith. I'm a Christian, so um, and the conservative one at that. So just trying to bring them, and they had a lot of exposure to Christianity too. They were raised that way. So just trying to remind them, of the basis of our faith. And I used to
Mm.
tell them jokingly, I say to them, so when you get into this house, you're in Nigeria. When you're in school, yeah, you're in America, but just for a few hours. So the discipline, the expectations remained, I just became this voracious researcher. I was researching all manner of apps,
Mm.
parental control, and monitor everything.
Everything.
I had cameras everywhere. I wanted to know everything that was happening. Their
Mm.
Kindle, anything tech you touch, desktop. I had an app that had to keep an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
And this really worries me because I wasn't really working because I was sick of moms, but not really going outside. And a lot of immigrant parents have to work. Some of them have to work 1, 2 jobs, so it's really demanding. And how do you, if you have children, how do you cope? How do you supervise them and keep up with that kind of schedule? It really bothered me. In fact, that was one of the main reasons why my husband now spends more time here than he does in Nigeria.
Right. And is he finally here already, or he still goes back and forth, your husband?
Still goes back and forth, but
Hmm.
more often here. Yeah,
Okay.
but because our business is still running in Nigeria, it still requires him to go in once in a while.
Okay. Have you been back since you moved?
I have not.
You have not. Yeah, that must be hard. But I really like the concept of in your home is Nigeria. I like that because you can keep like a little space where the language, the culture, the traditions stay kind of, yeah, it's a way to preserve, right? Those things.
Yeah, because especially for children that are getting this teenage age, it's just so easy for them to get carried away.
Mm.
My son is travel like, oh, but in this, he said maybe Marco's house, they don't like. Well, I don't live in Marco's house. This is not Marco's house.
This is not exactly.
I'm not Marco's mom.
Yeah.
So I still have that. Just let them know, yeah, I love you, but we have our own principles, we have our own, and we are most likely going back home to Nigeria. So,
Hmm.
you know.
Oh, and I'm glad that you're mentioning that. So, in the plans of this moving to the US, is that a plan that you consider? This is something that sometimes I ask some of the immigrants, and a lot of us didn't know that we were coming here and we were going to stay here. Like a lot of, including myself, like my plan was to come here for a year and then I extended it. And then, so I wonder if for you has been similar, or you have a very set plan and a vision of what you want in the future.
Unfortunately, it's not because my
Mhm.
country is just this crazy place right now. When I left
Yeah.
in 2018, I thought it was really bad, it was risky, it was scary. I had this great scare, and it's like 1,000 times worse right now.
Mm.
So, so you can't even say. You just
Mm.
take each day as it comes.
Yeah. No, I identify
Be
with
great to
you.
have someone like me who is a planner, who is like to strategize and be sure. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that piece, and coming from a country that also has terrible right now political and social situation and economic, it's hard to say, right? Even to go visit, it's difficult. It's almost impossible.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Sometimes I also have to go into Ghana
Yes.
and get people come over to him, like, because it's just.
Yeah. And from those experiences of moving here to the US, I hear that there were definitely some challenges as, the raising your kids and seeing the culture. What have been something positive, something that you say, wow, this is something that has been amazing from arriving to this country, like opportunity wise, or yeah, just like a different perspective too.
So I think what I'll consider as the most, because I have been into entrepreneurial development a lot, and I see the challenges small businesses face in Nigeria.
Hmm.
It's terrible. And then just comparing it to the opportunities here, to how the government has made so many leeways, for you to thrive in business here in the States, the ease of business registration, the tax deductions. I mean, I'm like, Nigeria government has got to see this. So
Yeah.
it's just, it is, it's an awesome thing to see. Getting the
Hmm.
business registered in Nigeria. I just registered a new business recently in Nigeria, and I think it's been 2 months, and I'm still in the process. I can't even open an account.
And when you're like an, I mean, in knowing that, I think we all know that as immigrants in the US, things tend to take longer. But sometimes when you compare that time period to how it takes in our countries, like it's not long at all. It's like it's fine.
I know, I'm used to this. Those who have been
Yeah.
here all their lives, oh, this is taking so long. I'm like, really?
Like no.
Fly out my country. So it's crazy. So I see that one of the things I realized when I started doing more research, I just realized that
Mm,
when they say America is a land of opportunity, it's not just to brag. It
mm,
really is. The government has really put things in place to ensure that if you strive, then you can thrive. So
mm.
I love that about America, yeah.
I really like that word, and I like the word of thriving, right? And I want to ask you, how are you currently doing? How are you currently thriving? So yeah, we can learn a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm not excited about any business that doesn't bring social change.
Mm.
So literally my mantra in life is if it's not going to impact the community, I don't care how much it makes for me. You know.
I like that.
I take so seriously that even invest in the stock market, my husband and I argue, like, dude, I'm like, no, that company doesn't do this. Like, it's like, who cares?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
when I got here, I was naturally drawn. My attention was drawn to certain things that I was noticing, challenges that immigrants were facing. Like I said about my children, I saw immigrant parents who had to work 2 jobs, couldn't
Mm,
even stay with their children, and they didn't do this the first 2 years they got here or 3 years. It just was their life. I have friends who have been here for 10, 20 years, and they're still working 2, 3 jobs. And so,
yeah.
like, what kind of life is this? How long can you really live like this?
Mm,
If something happened to you, let's say you broke a leg or did something, what are you going? Because it's like the rat race is endless.
mhm, mhm.
And I had a particular experience that really drove this home. So I started thinking already, what can I do to empower immigrants? What am I going to do to? Because that was just my focus. Because I've seen that there's a lot of this is an information um, driven country. I mean, education is really important online. People are teaching, but I also realized that the needs of immigrants are not being particularly met.
Mm,
For example, if somebody is teaching about building your credit, they are telling you, oh, your credit history, your parents should get you a car when you're 18. Most immigrants come here after 18, so those things don't really make sense. So I decided, okay, I think I should do something that would
mm.
is target specific to immigrants, will elevate immigrants, and just stop this rat race. If they can find financial freedom, they can get invested, can do run successful business, maybe. So I thought of it until the pandemic hit, and I had a very dear friend. I met him, he's Nigerian. He I met him in an Uber really, and we got friendly. He was really helping me out. He'd help me do grocery shopping. Just very helpful.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, he told me his immigration story. He'd been here for 10 years. He had dependents, children home in Nigeria, his elderly parents, was married here. So many challenges. His wife
Mm.
here, he had other problems. But just as he was entering his 10th year and was going to get his citizenship, pandemic hit, he got
Oof.
sick and he died. And that really broke my heart. And
Oh
I,
my
yeah,
goodness.
I felt I was so hit so hard. I was like, this guy has been asking me for help. And I've been procrastinating. I was like, okay, let me settle this, let me do that. I was so full of myself. I didn't give him the right help.
Mm.
So I had this guilt trip, like maybe if I had done this, if I had done that. But so I just said to myself, in honoring this guy's memory, I'm going to start this thing. And that's how I just started Immigrants Thrive. Like, oh,
That
no more
is
perfection.
right. It's just that just yeah, I love that you're opening up about that story and the purpose behind the podcast or the platform, right? Because sometimes we want things to be perfect in order to kick them off and launch. And we that are doing podcasting, we know that it's never gonna be like that, really. Yes. Wow, how amazing. How long ago did you start the podcast and what do you do with Immigrants Thrive so people can learn?
Yeah. So I started in May of 2020. Immigrants Thrive, presented in May of 2020. And I decided to, because I realized that it was going to help people find financial freedom. I needed to know a lot about money. And I always say that there are two things about this country. If you're going to do well financially, you need one of two things: either a lot of cash to invest and take advantage of opportunities, or you need a lot of knowledge. You need to know
Mm.
things. Because just one thing you know in this country could change your finances forever. So yeah, I just threw myself into learning. I got certified as a financial advisor, I'm a financial professional. I could help people make financial decisions,
Mm.
and I've always been in entrepreneurship development, but I just knew that this country, just, there's some things that you don't know. And there are some things that you know, one thing, it could just change everything.
Mm.
So those are the things we do at Immigrants Thrive. We help, funny enough, 60% of our audience are not immigrants. Well,
Really?
so, yeah, funny enough.
That is
Um,
cool.
we help people in our community to build wealth,
Hmm.
ensure they're protecting their families, because we've had sad cases where somebody passes away and the family wants, especially Nigerians, they have
Mm.
that habit. They want to go home to get buried and they can't even afford it. And they are going to go fund me and all that. And with a little planning, with as little as $5 to $10 a month, you could
You
take care of that. Or they don't know, or they think it's very expensive, or they think it's not important. So our first goal is education, and then we show you your best options. And also because you could never, I don't think anyway you could thrive financially if you don't have some business sense. For a lot of us, even if you were working, you need a side business, you need an additional income. So we also teach business opportunities and how to thrive there.
Wow, that is so important for the community, for the immigrant community, for first generation, second generations too of immigrants that, sometimes we carry these values and these ideas of things that our parents did back
Yeah.
home or how things used to work, but the world is changing so fast and things are happening and we kind of need to get on the things and learn, as you said, like knowledge and yeah, having those concepts. And that's something that I really admire with the work that you're doing, is that you're bringing those conversations with specialists and professionals and people that can teach us that. And I was wondering, while you were talking about this, what is like one piece of advice? I know you mentioned the saving money, even if it's like a short, I mean, like a small amount a month, but what is like that common mistake that you see within the community in terms of finances, and what's something that we can start doing to improve?
I think the most common mistake I see, which I think people need to really learn more about, is protection. People don't get protection.
Mm.
It's like you're building a house and you don't care about the foundation, you just do some shabby work. So people, when they think of financial freedom or being financially free, they think of investing in the stock market, doing that, starting
Mm.
the, all of those things are great, but you don't build a house from the rooftop, right?
Mm.
The foundation you need for your finances is adequate protection. You need, and it's one secret people don't know. When you talk of insurance, people go like, that's not my thing. But the rich people in this country, they have
Mm.
learned to to use insurance as an instrument to protect them from high taxes, to also grow investment, to protect them from, to help them do investments that are guaranteed. You go into the stock market, nobody gives you any guarantees.
Mhm.
There's no floor, there's no ceiling apparently, so you could lose everything, you can gain a lot. But what I like to say to people is like insurance is like a phone. When the
Mm.
phones came out, all we could do was make a call and text, right? But
Yeah.
your phone is a machine. You can literally do anything. People shoot movies with their phone. It has evolved. It's such a powerful instrument. So, in the same way, insurance is not what we used to know. People know about term insurance, whole life insurance, all those that I don't even. If you have it, I'll try to get you to move it into another kind of insurance.
Mm.
Insurance has evolved to become an instrument of massive tax savings. It has evolved to become an instrument of very solid investments where your capital is protected. You're not thinking of retirement in 30 years and your heart is dropping because things are going. So insurance has evolved, and if you're thinking of financial freedom, you must think protection.
Oh wow.
Anything else you're doing, if you're building that financial house for your future and you don't have the foundation right, there's a lot of risk. So
Yeah.
the immigrant community must learn to embrace insurance. I can guarantee if you know any multimillionaire that doesn't have, is not well invested in insurance, if nothing else, for them, it's also a way of transferring wealth to the next generation and avoiding taxes. I challenge you, bring them on. It's very rare. they all listen to financial advisors, so they now know that there's a better way to protect, there's a better way to grow your wealth, there's a better way to avoid taxes in the future.
Mm.
Because most of you invest in 401k, they protect you from taxes right now, but then you're retiring and you're surprised that that amount you're looking at, oh, I have $400,000, 35 to 40% of it belongs to government. So while
Mm.
you're building your castle on that amount, so
Yes.
that's one thing I'll say to migrants. Consider insurance. It has evolved. It's now multi-dimensional and a very powerful tool.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that piece of advice. And I also want people to, check out the podcast and your Instagram account so they can, I know you share a lot of other, resources and strategies. And I want to ask you, I do want you to share like where can people find you? And I'm gonna add that to the description. You can say it now and then I will ask you a few other questions. But since we're talking about it.
Yeah. So it's the website is www.immigrantsthrive. Thrive like THRIVE. Immigrants Thrive. And our social media handles are the same thing at Immigrants Thrive.
Perfect. And it's immigrantthrive.com.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. And yeah, I was talking, I wanted to ask you, I feel like this is something that a lot of the time immigrants find a lot of support when building community and when finding other communities within their cities or their towns where they're living. I want to hear how have been that experience for you, in like, have you been able to connect with other people from Nigeria or other countries, or have you been able to connect with Americans that have kind of opened your, their circles for community? Because I think that's a huge struggle for us immigrants sometimes.
That's true, especially if you're an introverted immigrant like I am. I would say I've done very poorly with that because the first year I was here, my goal was just to get settled down.
Mm-hmm.
And then pandemic hits. So it's like everything just went. I've started now looking for immigrant business communities, networking. I'm just trying to do that now because the first year I was just too focused on getting settled, getting my children in order, just getting things done.
Yeah.
By the time I was just getting to, oh, now I'm settled, let's do this, shutdown came. So
Oh
I'm
no,
not
I
very far with
know.
that area. All I do is maybe church on Sundays and then the library. My children love going to the library. So
Oh, that's awesome.
that's the
Those are
only
great
the library
spaces.
community. That's the only place I can say I've built any real.
Which is really important. And yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because I think that the first years, I would say even the first couple of years or even more, are years where we're really settling down, and are years where we, it's hard to focus on anything else that's not kind of like, how am I gonna survive? So, and more with the pandemic, I can't imagine how it was to be a new immigrant during the pandemic. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
Um, it was hard. I remember once, as the shutdown was about to happen, I said to my husband, "Come now," because I was going to have to homeschool the children.
Mm.
No time to just come right now. If not, I don't know. They're just going to just find out we killed ourselves in the house because I'll be so frustrated with them.
Right.
With three children, two of them at the verge of teenage, always want to argue with you. And like, if you don't come, I'm going to strangle somebody. So it's been hard, mostly because we live in Illinois. We don't have any relatives here. Many times I'd be like, why did I move to Illinois? And I remember it's because we had a business. My husband's business was registered here and licensed here.
Yeah.
But when he was working, yeah, even when we were in Nigeria, his licensing was here in Illinois. So that's the only reason we came to Illinois. We hated the
Right.
weather. We didn't know people. So it was hard because even people who have lived here all their lives were lonely. They didn't have connection. We didn't even know anybody to be lonely.
Exactly.
It was tough. I think one of the things I say to people all the time, one of the things we have as immigrants, especially Nigerian immigrants, one of the things we should really treasure is we are raised to be so sound, very sound because you have in Nigeria, you have friends, family. I think at every point in time in my home in Nigeria, I'd have three, four strangers, people living with me, cousins, aunts, cousins, somebody, So we are so wholesome because we have so much love, so much care for people. So we are raised that I think that love, just really protects us. So you grow up and you don't really struggle with loneliness. You don't struggle with a lot of the things people in the West struggle with, because the West is individualism. We have been raised as a community. So I think it's coming here that I started appreciating those attributes. Before I thought it was a problem. Oh, somebody but I just realized that, oh, what a blessing it's been. And I just see how, and I try to, instill it in my children. I'm thinking of how I can make it work so that the way I was raised with a sense of community, people around me all the time. I don't know, but I think it gives immigrants a strength that we don't appreciate enough, which people in the West lack because of their individualistic lifestyle. And
Mm.
so it was hard, but just having that community, I had people calling me from home, video calls all the time. It really helped us. So I don't know
Mm.
how others feel, because I have friends here who have siblings they don't talk to for a long time. I had cousins, uncles, aunties, uncles calling me all the time. So those relationships really meant a lot to me during
Mm-hmm.
this period.
It is amazing how we start to treasure even more those connections and those relationships. Like I got closer to my mom, and I got closer to some of my friends, that because we were all kind of like apart. So it was like that opportunity to reconnect and talk a little bit more and receive
Yeah,
support. So,
and listen more.
and I like that you said that that's our strength, the fact that we come from a culture, because I really connect and identify with that too, of like community building. And we don't find value on doing the things by ourselves. We find value by doing the things as a community. So I think coming to a country where we see more individualism, it's we have like a strength, as you said, because we can create that community, we can create those connections, and even if you're lonely here, we can still find a way to create community. I think that's really pretty, and I'm glad to hear that. Even in the midst of everything, I'm glad to hear that you're still finding a way to support immigrants, to support people to follow your dreams and your mission, right? Like, I think it's starting the podcast during a pandemic. I'm sure it was really an amazing space, right?
Gives me an opportunity to vent away from my children
Exactly. I
and to
love
talk and
it.
communicate with adults. At some
Exactly.
point, it was just, schoolwork. I was running, going crazy. They were going crazy.
Yeah, I think we're all. How are things in Illinois right now? Are it starting to get back to normal? Are things reopening?
Yes. So Illinois has done very well because the governor is the Democratic governor, so he really listened to the science.
Mm,
He
great.
really enforced things when needed to be enforced. So there wasn't any. At the beginning, it was bad because naturally there's a high volume of people in Illinois.
Mm.
There's a high volume of especially places like Chicago. A lot of people who kept working in spite of that. People who doubted, all these conspiracy theories, who didn't believe this was happening. So it was bad at first, but I think the government did a good job.
I'm glad, and I to hear that, and I'm sure that that's also going to help continue the immigration journey, seeing a different part of the city and the part where you're
Yeah,
at, like outside your home, right?
yeah.
Uh,
Because so many things we couldn't do. Ugh, so many things we couldn't do. We'd be like, oh, have you been to the like, no,
no, it's
no. And
closed.
then once we got settled in, just as we were like, oh, now let's start having fun. Boom. Everything
Yeah.
shut down.
Wow, that is tricky and that is pretty hard. Yeah, I'm glad that, as you said, you were able to get connected to your friends and family. They always can help us a lot.
Sure.
Well, Fijed, I'm really excited that you were here with us on Modern Immigrant. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share before we say goodbye. Maybe a message to the immigrants that are listening, and yeah, some words of encouragement.
Yeah, what I would love to say to immigrants that are listening is this: you are an important part of the United States of America. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You bring value, you bring color, you're important, you're here for a reason, and don't let anybody make you feel otherwise, feel less than. Everybody in this country came in as immigrants.
Mm.
Everybody, every except of course the natives. So
Mhm.
the only thing is something came generations before you. their parents, grandparents came. So we have equal rights. Of course, we need to live by the rules. That's not to say break all the rules, just but
Yeah.
you are qualified. You should be. And once you're here, and that's why I'm happy with the new administration. They're at least trying to get things right, right?
Mm,
They're at least trying to make opportunities
yeah.
for people who are already here. So yeah, wherever you are, hold your head high, make a difference, and yeah, we'll
That's
all do it. We'll all make it through.
That's such a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Fidget. It really gets to my heart. It's really beautiful words, and I'm really glad that we were able to connect through Instagram and that I was able to meet you because I think you're doing an amazing job. So thank you one more time for being with us.
Thank you for having me.